The man is going to be the mom. Right?
Yes, apparently. I don't think this is an angle. I think it seems like it's a real situation where Becky Lynch announced on Monday. They built up, she has a special announcement. A lot of people started assuming what it would be. And this was one of the things a lot of people jumped on. And it turned out it was true. Becky Lynch is pregnant.
And after all Petite Wrestling, as a palate cleanser, I watched the Undertaker documentary, but then you had asked me, well, watch this clip because everybody wants to know what you think about this because it's such a big deal. So I watched that afterwards, and it uncleaned my palate again. What the let's go into the actual real life occurrences in a second, but on the performance. They have her come out there, as she has been the man, the female Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? The last kicker. Drinking beer with Austin in the ring. This is how she has catapulted herself while not being the best worker or the most athletic woman on the roster, like a Charlotte or whatever. She has sold the merchandise, and she's the top female box office attraction they got, right? Because she's the last kicker and the female Stone Cold and the man and the blood on the face and the stealing the ambulance, and she'll stop at nothing, right?
Yeah.
And then she comes out, and now she's the crying, sniffing kid that got insecure kid that came and got a chance to live her dream. We'll talk about this in a minute, but there's a reason why The Undertaker didn't ride off into the sunset and reveal he was really an insecure human being until fucking 30 years after he was the top guy in the fucking business. Because people are not only never going to look at her the same again, she's destroyed. It's like when Austin hugged Vince and people realized he is really one of the employees, one of the fucking, this is all a work. You know, we let ourselves fucking get carried away, but yeah, he does what he's told to, and it's all a show. That's what killed the fucking business in spring of 2001. But she comes out and she's crying and she's vulnerable and she's the insecure girl that got to live her dream. You know, that's an Oscar speech. Well, I was just, when you're accepting the Lifetime Achievement Award, I can see Joan Crawford up there when she was 40 saying, oh, just 20 years ago, and I was just a lass. I was so vulnerable and starstruck, but now I'm also the greatest actress in the world, so fuck y'all. But anyway, they've got her out there being real, right? She's being legitimate. Those are legitimate feelings. She's got a heartfelt announcement she's going to make. And then, and to make it worse, it's an empty building, so it just resounds and cacophonates across the empty soundstage. Here comes Asuka in gimmick, screeching and yelling and acting like nobody really would ever. Maybe on some of fucking on the bad Owsley acid, but only that. So now we've gone from moment of real, what's she going to say, to, oh my gosh, it's all a work, or what the fuck is this going on? Completely back in the opposite direction. Then Becky has to go back into her being real. And that makes the announcement, you be the champion, I'm going to go off and be a mother. And then Asuka, it's almost like that's the first time she was hearing it because she didn't know whether to drop the gimmick or not. But she didn't, but she kind of did. She toned the gimmick down. But she was still... And we go back to Gaga. And then she... But no, first she got the belt first, and then she did full gimmick, going around like a raving lunatic. And so Becky gives her the belt in the case, and that's supposed to be a real moment, and then she goes crazy and comes back in, and then she says she's going to be a mother, and then she don't know what. One person was acting in a ludicrous, over-the-top, worky manner that nobody would ever act like, and the other one, instead of keeping up her personality, which has caused her to be the biggest female box office attraction in wrestling, was completely doing the antithesis of it and trying to be serious. And both of them were in the same place the same time. That's why I fucking hated it. What did you think?
I did get a kick out of the one part, though, where Asuka, after Becky, before she reveals she's pregnant, when she hands her the belt and says that when you won Money in the Bank, you actually won this. This was in the suitcase. And she acts a little foolish. She starts dancing around like there's an audience there. But she runs over to the announce table and she starts yelling at the announcers, including Samoa Joe, "Get out of here! Get out of here!" And that cracked me up. But, I mean, I thought the Becky stuff seemed really heartfelt and good. I watched it. I watched actually let Suzanne and the kids see it. They wanted to see it. And they had a real positive reaction to it. They couldn't understand why Asuka was behaving the way she was.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. If you're going to be real and heartfelt, then, I mean, fucking hell, what would have happened if right in the middle of Tarzan trying to revive Jane from the fucking poison dart that the pygmies blew into her, Cheetah jumped in the scene and started doing the fucking cartwheels? It didn't fit. It was so, and especially with no people there, and not even fans or anybody making any background noise whatsoever. It was just so odd. So that, yeah, if that's what you want, obviously Becky Lynch is not going to be wrestling for a while. So, but for the future, if she ever wants to come back to the wrestling business, it's just, why is it a standard line now that everybody, no matter how big a star they get to be, or no matter how they're presented, somewhere they have to be broadcast saying, "Oh, this has always been my dream and I'm just so lucky and I was so insecure." Fuck. If I'm looking at a star, I was lucky to get in the wrestling business, and I was actually, looking back on it now, almost ridiculously lucky that I was on top everywhere almost every time I did anything. When you look back on it, it's fucking freaky, but I was not going to break down into tears and ringside managing the Midnight Express at fucking Starrcade. I was too busy worrying about whether I was going to break my leg, but that's a different story. But the point is, it makes them all so... A lot of times a star just needs to be an asshole, or at least convinced of themselves. You know, you never saw Sylvester Stallone when he was fucking Rocky coming, "Oh, you know, I did it." Anyway, that's just...
Do you think this is another example of Seth Rollins fucking someone out of the title?
All right, well, here, this is not going to be a popular opinion, because everybody's, "Oh, isn't it wonderful?" and "Oh, motherhood's wonderful," and "Oh, it's so wonderful." If I was, well, I don't know if anything affects Vince or how it affects Vince or whatever the fuck anymore, but let's say it's my territory and I'm paying Becky Lynch 7 figures a year, because she's drawing me, obviously, at least 7 figures a year. Vince doesn't pay anybody more than they're worth in some respect or another. Ticket sales, merchandise, general overall ambiance. This is a multi-million-dollar talent, and she tells me she's pregnant? What the fuck? What the fuck? Maybe there's extenuating circumstances. Maybe she has an injury we're not aware of, where she could, have to quit at any minute. And in that case, it's like, well, what the fuck? Or maybe, and I don't think this to be the case, apparently, I was thinking, well, is she just pissed off at the company or at the business in general and just says, "Fuck it, I'll fucking just quit"? This is like one of the boys breaking his leg on purpose while he's on top. You can control. This is not like a fucking injury. This could have been controlled. It's not like I don't never want them to have children. But do you fucking, when both of you have top spots where you could make 7 fucking figures a year and blah, 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 wait 3 years, have a fucking baby. What the fuck? What happened if she does come back and even gets to this level of success again and gets this level of spot again? As soon as she does, something happens, she gets hurt. Then she can't do it at all. She could have the baby after she eventually got hurt, because everybody gets hurt. There would have been a good way to fucking rehab a goddamn injury. Go have a baby. I don't fucking know. But I find it insane that someone that young, who has had that level of success for that short a period of time, what's it been, 6-7 years? That's nothing.
Well, not this level. This level of success is, maybe 3 years.
Well, but I mean, the whole run in the company and she just gets there. It's like when Brock quit when he was making more than $1 million a year. I don't want to end up like those guys all broke down and, drinking. Well, good. Wait a fucking year and a half or two, you idiot. Because you ain't there yet. Whatever. The point is, if I was Vince, I'd be hot, because I'd sure be hot if it was my millions of dollars. This is not like an injury that can't be prevented. This could have been controlled and or timed. Except they obviously didn't control it or time it. But somebody that young, that age, that's achieved that level of success, and you have a baby? The fuck? Jesus Christ. I'm gobsmacked. I am gobsmacked. Everyone's like, oh, but it'll be so wonderful. Well, it'd also be just as wonderful in 3 or 4 years when you've made millions more dollars and you're not in the middle of a fucking great run like that. I like it. It's like one of the boys breaking their leg on purpose.
Who do you think will be next? I know from Suzanne and her friends, usually when one gets pregnant, next thing you know, a few others are pregnant at around the same time. Do you think Charlotte will be next to get pregnant?
I don't know. If I was Vince, I would start writing pregnancy clauses into every woman's contract. Because that's just fucking ludicrous. And that was the same thing. Awesome Kong should have been a huge star. When she went to the WWF, that was right. She was still, I know she's had back problems and had wrestled a lot, and that was, 7, 8 years ago, whatever the fuck. When she went up there, she was still coming off that TNA run, and she was fantastic. And has to come out and announce she's pregnant, this monster, this beast they've built. And it just exposed her and exposed everything, and then obviously that was that. She should have been a huge fucking deal up there. And, in the old days... Well, first of all, this wouldn't happen in the old days. I'll tell you why in a second. But you could have done an injury thing, and you wouldn't have to have that make that fucking sappy, fucking snot-inducing, wet-eyed fucking statement and ruin the gimmick and the character of your fucking biggest female star. She could have been injured and put out of wrestling, and in a year and a half, she could come back, and my God, she'd be even bigger. But, of course, you couldn't keep that a secret for a year and a half, because I'm sure they'll fucking post pictures everywhere in public on the internet. But if they'd been business, they could have figured out some way without her taking any ridiculous bump or whatever to injure her, and fucking she's gone, and you don't think about her. And then when she comes back to get even, holy shit, that would have been some business. But instead, I'm going to cry and I'm going to go home and have a baby. And all the stuff these fucking milksop, soft, gutless fucking modern wrestling fans like to hear. But somebody asked me what would happen if in the territories of the old days, if a woman got pregnant, how would they get out of a story or an angle or whatever?
Oh, I know the answer to this.
Well, yes, you do. They would have been in one.
Oh, I was going to say what happens is Paul Lee then just says all of a sudden that you're a lesbian having an affair with Kimona Wanalea, and everyone forgets you're pregnant.
Well, no, that still wasn't in the old days in the territories.
I know.
I forgot about that thing, actually, also.
Ewan McGillicuddy announces she's pregnant, and then she announces it's not Raven, so I've been with this whole time. It's Tommy Dreamers, the guy who's been pile driving me for months, and then all of a sudden, she's not pregnant, she's a lesbian, but Tommy's still with her because even though she obviously duped him with this fake pregnancy, he's just enthralled with her looks. Who knows?
You know what? I don't think fucking Shitstain and Ferrara were the only ones watching way too much Jerry Springer back then.
Heyman had good ideas and then no way to get out of them.
It just kept going, like the guy digging the hole and just keeps digging. And he's got further to go and he's like, where the fuck? Anyway, in the territory days, it wouldn't have happened because the women wrestlers were never in programs or angles. Sometimes they were in angle matches in somebody else's program. They were brought in for dates, but generally they came in to spend a week or 2 weeks in the territory, work the towns around as an attraction on the card. Women wrestlers were never used in ongoing angles. No territory had a women's division. The thought would have been laughed out of goddamn every building that you presented it in, that they would go to that expense because nobody wanted to see women's wrestling. And since the days of Mildred Burke was not only one of the highest paid professional athletes in the United States in the 30s, 40s, and early 50s. She got tremendous publicity, and she had the body, and she was legitimate. That's how she started in the carnivals, wrestling guys. And that's why they created an industry mostly around her, with people that were trained to work with her and her husband. That story's been well documented, running the women's wrestling industry, because it was an attraction. It's because there were almost no women professional athletes to begin with in sports, period. Plus, you couldn't go anywhere if you were a guy and see women in bathing suits wrestling each other, except at the wrestling matches, in which case, they commanded high ticket prices, because Mildred Burke's challengers, a lot of them were quite good looking, but they were as legitimate as women's wrestling was ever going to get for the next 50 years in those days. So they could be featured, especially down south, as the main event. Because let's face it, guys were still going to see scantily clad women wrestle when you couldn't buy that kind of shit on the newsstand, and there was no fucking magazines covering that type of thing. But it was a bigger deal. And then as the 50s went on, and TV and strippers and burlesque shows and blah, 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 it became less about going to see the scantily clad women and more about Moolah's business, where she trained women to keep the fucking business going, because none of the male promoters were attempting to break any women into the wrestling business. They didn't give a fuck. They weren't going to use them regular. They didn't care. So Moolah trained women and kept the women's wrestling business going, and the girls were booked as attractions on the card, never in an important position, because they weren't going to really sell any tickets. Every once in a while, it was the same kind of thing as, hey, the midgets are coming to town, or the Bears coming because it's Christmas week and the kids will be there, or whatever. So a few times a year, the girls would get booked for a girls' single match, tag match, whatever. And if a booker in some territory needed a girl to humiliate a manager, like the partner on the other side is going to be a woman that's going to beat up the manager, or something, they'd call Moolah or one of the few independent girls in the country. The ongoing women in the territories from the dawn of the wrestling business were always the significant other of the star that they were with, going back to Gorgeous George, and his valet was his wife. Bobby Shane's valet, Miss Sherry, was his wife in the late 60s, early 70s. Even Ma Bass wasn't really related to Ron and Don Bass. That was Mae Weston, an old-timer from the Mildred Burke days. But she was past her prime at that point. But all the young, attractive women that were regulars in the territory were used in the corner as valets to the star that they were associated with personally. And I guarantee you that there was no way on fucking earth that if a guy got a good spot on the card, and his valet was his wife, that she was going to get pregnant and throw them out of fucking work. I'm pretty much guaranteed. Can you recall an instance of that ever happening that you ever heard about?
I can't. Obviously, women's wrestling today is much different than it was.
But I'm talking about women in wrestling, and the women that would have been regulars in territories, the valets in the 80s. My God, if Sunshine could manage not to get pregnant, she's been on more street corners than the Dallas Times-Herald. So, oh, that burned him up when I said that on TV. But no, because they were there specifically because that was a chance at a run, a top spot to make some fucking money. They weren't going to fuck it up by getting pregnant. Either they had kids at home already, they didn't need any more, or they would wait to have kids till the run was over with. It's not like it was going to last forever.
Well, two things come to mind. One, I know you're not a big Japanese women wrestling fan, but didn't it happen to Akira Hokuto? She married Kensuke Sasaki and got pregnant. I could be remembering things wrong. I thought she was still active when she got pregnant. But the other one is, when it comes to valets, wasn't that one of the reasons that Elizabeth left the road was that her and Randy were trying to have kids?
I have heard that said. I don't know the validity of it. But, yeah, well, that's the thing is, you take off first. This you're not right in the middle. And Elizabeth wasn't making $1 million a year. Neither was Akira Hokuto or whatever. God damn it. This is just I'm sure all the girls were like, oh, it's so wonderful. If that was reversed, if it was guys, there's a locker room of 20 fucking guys, and this one guy a locker room of 20 guys, and Stone Cold Steve Austin walks in, and he's the top guy, and he's making more money and drawing more money than any wrestler in the history of fucking wrestlers. And he announces, hey guys, I'm gonna go out tonight and break my leg on purpose. They're like, well, you dumb fuck. What the fuck? All this work you've done to get to that spot, and you've just decided you're going to do the one thing that completely prevents you from doing this anymore at this level, right now in the middle of this run, making this much money. And the guys would all fucking throw shit at him and hold him down and try not to let him do it. The girls, I'm sure, were all so happy. Oh, we can't wait to have a party or whatever. Yeah, fuck. You know what? There you go.
Why are you ripping that one?
I just ripped it to rip the thought of $1 million a year talent purposely taking themselves out of the fucking game.
Well, beyond that, Tyler Black, Colby, whatever you want to call him, are you happy for him?
No, he just lost a goddamn $1 million coming into the household over the next fucking year.
Come on, they're gonna have a baby. It's a beautiful thing.
I'm wondering what he thought when he heard about it. I'm sure he was like, oh, shit. What the fuck?
I understand his first words were, who do you suspect?
Hey, I swear to God, we saw some friends of ours here. We were at the comic convention here in Louisville a couple of years ago. And these friends that we knew they used to come to OVW, me and Stacy, were at the booth, and they come up, and the guy says, I won't mention any names, but his girlfriend, oh, so-and-so's pregnant. And my first thing was, oh, man, what are you going to do? And then he's kind of looks, and he's like, I said, oh, is it good? Is that, and Stacy's like, no, they want it. Oh, it's good. Right. Hey, every time that word has been bandied in my direction throughout my lifetime, the few times that it has, and thankfully, incorrectly in each instance. I have, boy, you talk about somebody's asshole puckering up. You could have shoved a lump of coal up my ass and come out with a 10-carat diamond.
I love that your response to we're pregnant is, oh no, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Fuck, that's some big time shit right there, man.
Well, congratulations, Becky and Seth.
Yeah.
Tyler, Colby, whatever you're calling yourself today.
You're going to, about 15 years when that kid's costing you a fortune, you're going to miss that $1 million, kids.
What do you think they're going to do? I mean, here's a hypothetical for you. He's on, let's say on the road. There is no on the road anymore. But he's still active. If she's about to have a baby, I'm going to guess she's going to be out of the ring for a considerable period of time. Do you think eventually they get an RV and travel with the baby, get a nanny? What do you think they do? I mean,
boy, that's a pain in the ass. It's just, why do you think I didn't get a puppy until I slowed down my travel on the road? So with a baby is a giant pain in the ass from what I've seen. You can't, and also here's one thing, you can't just call Pet Suites and book a fucking atrium room for a baby. And as long as the baby gets walked 3 or 4 times a day and a couple of playtime sessions and regular food and her blankie and her bed and her favorite little toy, she's fine for a weekend. They require a little bit more fucking attention. So that I don't know how she's going to come back in the next little while. And then, like I said, then they got to become the traveling. And then that's not the image of a fucking rock star. Like Seth Rollins, I don't know what this Monday Night Messiah horse shit is, but he's like John Morrison. He looks like a fucking rock star. He ought to be being presented as a goddamn pussy magnet with some personality being allowed to go out there and shit talk some people instead of whatever that monotone crap is that they're giving him. And the last thing I would want anybody in the public to know if I was Seth Rollins is that I'm with Becky Lynch or with anybody else. And we'll talk about the Undertaker documentary here in a minute. The one fucking guy, and this is why they're doing documentaries on him, the one fucking guy that has waited until he's decided to ride off in the sunset to open the curtain and peel back the mystique. I'd have Seth Rollins, at least in publicity, fucking every goddamn Hollywood starlet in sight, fucking being a goddamn rock star, going out and kicking people's ass, fucking bragging about it. Look at that fucking guy. And instead, the Monday Night Messiah, and they've got him out there fucking doing high school play lines. Anyway.
Well, let's just hope that the baby gets its promo abilities from her side of the family.
Well, you know, if you turned him loose and actually gave him something to say, I bet you he could do better than what he has done. Anyway, I thought you were going to say, well, hopefully if the pregnancy causes any kind of joint pain or discomfort, at least that's what we're going to do. We're going to send as a baby present to replace that $1 million that Seth Rollins' income just took the hit on over the next 12 months in his household. And we're going to send him our code to get 20% off the Omax Cryo Freeze. That's right, ladies and gentlemen.